I also am a fractional executive for a couple of different organizations. And so today's topic is one that I definitely am passionate about and look forward to covering with you as well. As we go to get started, though, if you wouldn't mind in the comments section, just let me know who you are and where you're from. That would be greatly helpful to me, a great benefit to just know who's watching. In addition to that, if you happen to have any questions along the way, please feel free to leave those. But because of the dense sort of topic that we're covering here, I probably am not going to have time to cover it while I go through the session. So I will try and answer questions later this afternoon as I come back and run through. So just wanted to make sure that I address that. Also, if you're somebody that is repeatedly coming to these, tell me what it is that you're taking away from these sessions. You don't necessarily have to do it in the open comments. If you want to send me a direct message and say, here's where the sessions that we're conducting are benefiting you, and here's maybe some suggestions in terms of future topics that we could cover, I'd greatly appreciate that as well. Upcoming next, we have a couple different topics in terms of we're going to cover communications. We're also going to talk a little bit more about technology and the technologies that, many companies are dealing with, as well as they look to expand their organization. One of the key passions of mine is, on the pharma side, I've seen many organizations struggle with their CRM. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what to sort of consider whenever you're looking at, your future customer relationship management software inside of your organization. So just happy to sort of take any topics that individuals have that where you're seeing organizations either struggle, or maybe it's your own organization that you'd like to recommend, a particular topic for, and I'm happy to cover that as well. So as we hop in here, fractional executives are experienced professionals who provide their expertise on a part-time basis, allowing organizations to tap into their knowledge without the commitment of full-time hire. And this is really important given kind of where we're at with a lot of different things in our space right now, with funding being tight, the economy being uncertain, and things like that. There are key things that you've got to make sure that your organization is able to support. In addition to that, though, there is a velocity enhancement that comes with having somebody that's experienced. The unfortunate thing is that oftentimes to get experience, you have to pay for it. And so paying for it, oftentimes on the executive level roles could be an expensive price tag to have to pay inside the organization. So one way to continue to get that velocity and know that you're going to be able to support your organization with a specific skill is to look at these fractional executives. They're fractional executives that cut across a lot of different things. I was actually reviewing a little bit of my current work with a specific organization that's had some challenges with a particular problem cropping up over and over again. And we covered this a little bit in the last session in terms of troubleshooting, but this idea of really focusing in on what specifically is causing the problem and why does it keep coming back is something that the CEO has just said, look, this thing has come back. And honestly, I've never been more confident that it's not going to come back. Now I'm going to knock on wood that, it doesn't come back, that we've actually found all of the underlying causes for the specific situation that's happening. But again, that idea of troubleshooting and knowing for sure that you've outlined with the organization every possible cause and every possible solution only comes through having somebody that's experienced. Now I want to address two elephants in the room. The one is that oftentimes organizations, so in my specific case, I am the unique individual inside the organization that is a fractional individual for the companies that I support. There are companies, though, that I've been asked to support in the past, and we've done some of this in the past, where somebody hires somebody that is not skilled enough to be able to support the organization at the level that they're currently at. And so what's happening is the organization is paying this individual to learn on their dime. And if that's something that you can afford the time for somebody to come up in terms of their capability, then okay, fine. That's a decision that can be made by the CEO or the other executives inside the organization. I see, though, oftentimes, if you go to LinkedIn right now and search on jobs and search for the common things that are oftentimes listed as fractional roles, you will find this as well. CFOs, COOs, chief marketing officers, chief commercial officers, chief business officers, those roles are currently listed at $100,000 or less. And guess what? The organization is going to get exactly what they've asked for. They're going to get somebody that is not experienced. They're brand new. There's somebody that would absolutely love to have that title. And so with that, they are going to, find exactly what they've asked for, which is somebody that's inexperienced, that's willing to do the work. I'm not saying that these individuals aren't willing to put in the effort and hours that it's going to require for the role that they're hired for. What I am saying, though, is there's a time horizon that you're going to have to wait for this individual to also learn. And so there's two ways that you sort of deal with this. One way is you can have them be mentored. And if the individual is strong enough, having a mentor for that individual, you could hire an organization like mine to mentor them and bring them along. And it's something that again, the individual could be brought up in terms of their capability by leveraging skills in a very part-time basis with a coach. The other side of this is that individual may never meet expectations. They may never support the organization in a way that they need to. And the senior executive team honestly needs to make a strong determination as to whether or not if that individual should just be changed inside of the organization. Maybe there's another role that they fit better on a temporary basis. And then maybe eventually, they could come back as the COO or chief marketing officer, chief business officer, but they need experience to be able to do that. And you may need to make that determination to be able to slot the right person in the role. The other alternative is that, and I oftentimes hear this in terms of people that are looking at fractional executives, but sort of challenging themselves saying, but I feel like I need somebody full time. Every fractional organization deals with this, and it's something that we oftentimes just go back to outlining the specific objectives and making sure that whoever you're going to have in that role can fulfill it within the shorter amount of time that's required. If your demands are truly so vast that you need somebody full-time, I can't think of any fractional organization that's out there, anybody that supplies these resources that would want somebody put in a position where they can't win. And so, it's something that honestly, every organization would benefit from just mapping out more specifically what it is that you want people to carry out, because you could even use that to hire your full-time resource. So there's no, to me, there's no sort of harm in looking at fractional resources and whether or not if they might be able to support your organization. So that is the elephant in the room. It's sort of two-sided. I understand that, and I covered a lot in that statement, but I just wanted to make sure that I covered that as we go to get started here, because it is ultimately something that every organization is going to have to deal with. And rather than not talking about it and leaving it out there, I felt like it needed to be addressed right here at the beginning. So let's talk a little bit about efficiency and unlocking efficiency overall, at least from an operational standpoint. So if you were looking at the operations inside of your organization, whether it be a CFO, a chief commercial officer, or a COO role, individuals that come in are able to sort of look very quickly at where your organization is. And based on their experience, most likely they're going to be able to say, hey, look, we can optimize processes by doing this, because they've already seen it in some other organization that they've supported. And so by having this extensive experience, they're able to quickly sort of look across and say, if we do it this way, I've seen this work before, let's take this step and get moving, more quickly. They also have specialized experience. And so, I never claim to be somebody who is extremely strong on the commercial sales side and building sales organizations. I'm much more of an operations guy. But if you brought me in and said, I want your experience in terms of operations, it's something that I can hit the ground running in terms of really making sure that I can contribute to the success of the organization while you're working on the commercial elements of the organization as well. If somebody wanted the tactics of sales, they want somebody to track sales, they want somebody to track project management around, the sales process and things like that. Those things are definitely things that I personally have helped with. But again, you're looking for where is that specialized experience that when the person walks in the door, they can absolutely help my organization, be there and support, what it is that we need to do, immediately. You also have flexible resource allocation, that where this individual can actually, flex and meet your organizational resources much more efficiently and focus in on the areas that require immediate attention, and just being able to really contribute from that perspective and make sure that they're able to really attack things and get things done and set into place. It's something that honestly, whenever I was a full-time resource, I oftentimes looked to certain people to get things done. And in this case, I feel like as a fractional executive, I at least get to contribute to very focused efforts that the organization has and help them be successful. Lastly, offering this fresh perspective and being able to sort of walk in and be a part of the executive team, but also be a part of the organization. And maybe in the past, I've seen certain things that are able to contribute to the organization, today in terms of that fresh perspective and being able to, just really know that at the end of the day, enabling innovation and growth by being able to really offer that fresh perspective as well. Let's talk a little bit about enhancing team dynamics. So the individuals that wind up in these fractional roles are individuals that actually have to be able to come in and culturally fit with many different organizations throughout the spectrum, right? So they have to be able to walk into this situation and really be able to understand exactly what the culture is and how they fit within it, but also helping other individuals do the same. And so, by doing this, across a few different organizations myself, this is something that I feel like, I oftentimes need to rapidly get my feet under me in terms of where I fit in the culture, but also, whenever other individuals are struggling, there's an opportunity for me to help them as well, unlike other individuals that might be more embedded inside of an organization. There's a communication boost also that happens, inside the organization by having fractional executive, because they have strong communication skills. They oftentimes have to be individuals that can communicate in a lot of different ways. They have to be able to foster an open and effective dialogue to be able to get stuff done, because frankly, they don't have a lot of time to waste. And so, moving really quickly and understanding both what needs to be done and also in terms of, how to get things done in this specific organization is something that's absolutely important for these individuals as well. Also, for conflict resolution, I know that my profile is a little bit unique. I have change management experience across a few different organizations and have taken a lot of training and certification in this. But the reality is a lot of the fractional executives that I know, they're able to mediate conflicts and really help teams navigate and understand, how do you best get stuff done? Even whenever we need to, sort of set our personal objectives aside. So with that, conflict resolution is one benefit that I could see, as well as you start to look at fractional executives and how they could contribute to your organization as well. You want to try and choose the right fractional executive. And so you need somebody that has these three things in place, right? They have to have expertise. They have to have very strong communication skills, as we just covered a moment ago. And then ultimately, they need to be compatible with your organization. They really need to fit like that missing puzzle piece that you might have right now in terms of, skills and things like that. They really need to be the individual that can support that for your organization. You want to make sure that you get an executive with industry knowledge and experience based on your needs. And so I've oftentimes had this sort of starting from a place of loss conversation. So some organizations, you'll find a nearly perfect fit, but the person still missing one key component. And that sort of position is not something that you want to start off in either. You want somebody that has sort of, a broad level of experience that can come in and really support your organization. And you're not going to get that unless you've defined it first and are really clear in terms of what experience do you need. And the background really matters here. And having somebody that can support your organization with that, is important, as well. Communication skills, I've sort of touched on this before, but just to hit it one more time, the individual needs to have strong experience in terms of their ability to communicate with your team across a lot of different mediums. And so I just was having a conversation with somebody where they said, hey, look, I really hate Slack. And so I know in terms of sending them a message in Slack is probably not the right place to go. We might need to adjust and do something where we're sending them more email communication or more, one-on-one communication at certain periods of time. So those sort of things and being very aware of your environment is something that fractional executives, have to deal with on a quite frequent basis, and is something that they have to do, as well. And then lastly, really knowing where your team's culture and values lie. You want somebody that can seamlessly fit inside of your organization. And as I said before, be that missing puzzle piece for your organization. To find the right cultural fit for your organization and, making sure that their experience, their compatibility, and their communication skills will really ensure that you found the perfect individual that could be a fractional executive for you. And I would challenge anybody that sort of sees gaps along the way that you want to be upfront about those gaps with the individual and see whether or not if they have experience, aren't hearing about at this point in time. It's a real great place to sort of, start your relationship in that place of strength versus a place of, not knowing or questioning. As you bring the person on, you want to make sure though that you define specific goals for the person, that you really are critical in terms of what specifically do you want them to do and what are their roles and responsibilities and what time frame do you want the person to deliver these things within. If you're clear about this and really make sure that at the end of the day that you have these clear objectives and expectations set out for them, you start from, again, a firm foundation of being able to execute with the person. And that's where you want to be as well. You want to make sure that at the end of the day that they know what they have to do to be successful and you know what they have to do to be successful as well, and that you're frequently talking about what is that, sort of closure on each of the items to be able to achieve that. By doing it this way, you will set yourself up for success with a fractional executive, and honestly, it'll set you up for greater success with your other individuals on your team as well, because it's something that you should frequently be doing anyway. So integrating fractional executives into your existing team structure, you want to think through more specifically than just roles and responsibilities in terms of when they're starting. What is the scope of their job? In addition to that, though, you want to think more strategically and tactically about what is it that you want this individual to continue to sort of help point the direction for, as well as where do you want this individual, to move the ball down the field themselves, right? So having that ability to clearly define that as you go along is absolutely critical for this role as you're thinking about having a fractional executive in-house. And as you sort of, look through the different elements that are here, you have a need for open communication, yes, but you want to be able to sort of challenge things together and have an open dialogue about, how to evolve things along. You also want to make sure that there are tools and processes in place where you are working through and collaborating on things together. One of the things that I mentioned just a second ago was Slack. And so if you are using Slack, there's a way to sort of, set up a dialogue between you two so that you have a direct channel between each other to continue to communicate on a more frequent basis. In addition to that, I oftentimes use Notion for a lot of the accounts that I work with that don't have more evolved systems where you have, let's say, Microsoft Teams in place, and there's a way, to have more collaborative environments there. I also use Miro as another open whiteboarding software. Again, that, provides a great opportunity to collaborate. And so Miro is a great tool, as well. And if you're working on things and putting together, let's say, a strategy and things like that, there's a way for each individual to kind of come into the environment in Miro or even in Notion, do their part, and then with the expectation that you're at some point going to review everybody's work together. And so that's just another, sort of, thought process in terms of the ways to collaborate, utilizing software and tools to be able to do it. But you have to have some level of process also defined in terms of what works for you, what works for the individual that's your fractional executive, and then what works more broadly for your team. You also want to have, some level of trust and rapport, so that, at the end of the day, you're seeking out their input and you also acknowledge their expertise and they do the same to you. So there's a reciprocal relationship that's there. And then at the end of the day, being adaptable. And so just making sure that you're continually coming back to things like this and sort of looking at what do we need to be able to, pull everything together for the organization related to, having this fractional person, in-house, and then also, what can they do to contribute and be more a part of the organization. So now let's talk about the long term with having a fractional executive in place. A fractional executive really will help the organization evolve, and they can only do that if they have clear roles and responsibilities and also are not overlapping with other individuals in the organization. These people also are going to need regular check-ins. They're going to need regular communication from the most senior executives inside the organization, as well as the need to continue to stay linked in with teams that are, overall doing a lot of the work inside of the organization as well. And so by making sure that there are clear performance metrics, there are clear goals that are set out, all of those things just add again to the ability for the fractional executive to be successful. So you want to consider that, as somebody comes on board, this is going to take a fair amount of time, for somebody to set up the initial systems and processes. However, these are things that honestly long-term will benefit your organization, and the fractional executive honestly could become a bigger part of the larger search for having somebody else in place in the organization that eventually takes the role full time. And so, again, this is a great opportunity to think long-term, about how this all plays out. Then whenever you think about, kind of the last part of it, incorporating fractional executives really provides the organization with a flexible solution for getting somebody in that's experienced, that can honestly contribute to your overall organization on a part-time basis so that you can achieve the results that you're looking for without sort of providing a full financial burden for that particular resource. If you're ready to explore the power of fractional executives, feel free to set up some time with me. I'd be happy to talk to you about my experience. I also would be happy to talk to anybody about, systems and processes that you could have in place in terms of supporting your broader organization. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. And I really do look forward to, covering more topics like this in Thoughts at Scale. Thanks a lot for being here.